Welcome to the Lean Lounge, a podcast brought to you by Lean Revisions. Please welcome your host, Jeff Gray.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Lean Lounge. My name's Jeff Gray. I'll be your host here today. And today on the Lean Lounge, we always talk about lean operations management and everything under that umbrella. And so it's really open to just, how are you being successful? What are you doing to tackle challenges out there in the organizations? How are you embracing the culture of your teams and your people? And today we're going to talk about leadership and how leadership is driving culture. Now, I know you guys are all driving and on airplanes and stuff listening to this or wherever you're listening to us at. You say leadership. Well, you've heard that a million times. What does that mean? Leadership. What does it look like? How do we measure it? And what do you mean that drives culture? I've been in many, many organizations, from mom and pop shops to multi-conglomerate organizations across the planet. And if you have poor leadership, poor communication, you're going to have disgruntled workforce. You're going to have a toxic environment. And I know a lot of us have been there. The older you get, the more you'll experience is the different types of culture out there in the world. And so we're going to talk about leadership, try to define it, and then align it to how it's really driving the culture of your organization. Because if you have a toxic environment, high turnover, bad customer service, a lot of complaints, bad products or services, it's due to the system, the processes and procedures, and the I don't give a crap culture. We've all been customers of that type of output from an organization. I've worked in all types. And so I'm going to walk you through a little bit about, what is leadership? How does it drive a culture? How do you transform a toxic culture before it's too late? And so I'll give you a few nuggets of knowledge. I always like to give some nuggets of knowledge away in our segments here. So let's look at, what is leadership and how does it drive culture? So leadership shapes an organization in many, many ways. It shapes the culture by setting the tone and the values. So we've all been privy to organizations where you might have your cliques. Some people are the boss's favorite and some aren't, and all those kind of things. If leadership doesn't address those and eliminate those from your organization, you're going to start having a bad culture. And then everything internally and externally is going to start falling apart. So they set the tone, the values, and the behaviors, and that guides how the individuals' teams will interact. If you're in your organization and there's silos, and as things go down the line, the problems in the communication loops are not put together and cohesive. We're always blaming and pointing. We're not working back and forth up and down the line to understand how we work together and work as a team and as a family in some organizations. Then you're going to have bad outputs. You got to make bad decisions, and you're not going to pursue those company goals. So if leadership is driving a toxic culture or not paying attention or having different, favorites and things like that, there's opportunity for improvement. And I know a lot of consultants that can come in there and help you. So contact us at leanrevisions.com and I'll send them your way. We transform organizations, but there's a lot of pieces, and the cultural piece is a big piece. I just did a conference a couple months ago, and we did an assessment about teams and the balance in the culture and how you have to have a well-balanced team. You don't want it to be, over to the left or over to the right. We want it to be all around where everybody has input, everybody is valued, and leadership lets everyone become empowered to share and to talk and communicate. And that builds a strong culture. There's many companies, if you go out there and Google, like Capital One, Starbucks that I've worked at, very good cultures. Leadership has embraced everybody, given everybody power to work together and to knock out challenges together and focus on that end goal for the organization. And that builds a strong culture and unity within. And so let's look at the definition really of leadership. And those of you who are watching on Apple Podcasts or whatever, you can see some of the slides. And those who aren't, Feel free to go to our website and download these slides. There's like 7 or 8 slides here, just kind of some high level stuff that I'm talking about. I went out on Google and I typed in, what is the definition of leadership? And Google doesn't even have it figured out. So then I went on one of those AI things and typed in some of Google stuff. And this is what it kind of came up with that I thought was really kind of an idea of what is leadership. From a president of the country to, a 9-year-old kid I saw on TV the other day who was cutting lawns, and he was hiring his 9-year-old and 10-year-old friends and paying them. And he was going throughout the neighborhood, a 19-year-old little kid. He was on TV. I think it was 60 Minutes. And he already had that in him, his leadership, his culture, his empowerment of his friends at school. So leadership shapes the organization. It shapes the culture. If you have high turnover, toxicity, people calling in sick, whatever, you know what's going on in your organization, hopefully. It's you're the leader, you're the rudder. And if you are losing money, you're having lots of internal strife, then you as leaders need to figure out what is wrong and make sure that you're getting everybody on board. You're herding the cats. You're getting the teams to interact. You're making decisions together, and you're pursuing that company goal. What is the ideal final result for the company, whatever that product or service is? So if something is wrong, look in the mirror. Don't blame your workforce. The workforce does what you tell them to do. And if it's toxic, it's actually you're the leader. It's your problem, your fault. And the culture, again, I went out there in the Google sphere and then one of the AIs and kind of fine tune, what is culture? And it's going to be different. And how do we measure these things? I like to be able to measure everything so I know where the target is, where I'm at, and how I'm going to close that gap and hit that target. So culture is vague, but you can feel it. When you walk into an organization where people greet you and they're happy and they're knowledgeable about the product or service and they enjoy going to work, that's a good culture. It's an organization where you have shared values, respect, beliefs, norms, behaviors, characteristics. You have a well-balanced team. Everyone is accepted. Everyone is responsible. Everyone helps each other. And you focus on that final goal. And over time, that culture just becomes the norm. And when new people come on and you onboard them and they can feel that and see that, even in the interview process, they know they're going to be happy they're working for you, working with you. I'm sure many of you listening out there have gone to interviews. And, in my younger days, when I was interviewing, I would ask people, what do they like about working there? And I remember the first time I did that at a tech company, there was about 10 people, those group interviews, take all your day long. They all just looked at each other like, uh-oh, what am I supposed to say? What do I like about working here? And finally, the leader said something, and then the rest of the people followed what she said. And right then I knew, uh-oh, I don't want to be here. This is toxic. Something's going on. And then when I said, what don't you like about working here? The room was silent. And I said to myself, let me get out of here, because I knew that wasn't going to be an environment where I was going to grow. There was something going on. So I always ask those questions. Why should I work here? They always ask you why you want to work there. Ask them, why should you work there? What's the environment like? Why do you like working here? What are the challenges? How does leadership? How do you respond to problems and complaints? What's the vision and how do I fit? So leadership drives that. Leadership drives that culture. And then all the people who work there will follow that suit. There's generally 2 different types of organizational cultures that leadership is driving. And over here on the left, for those of you who can see my slide, an unadaptive, constraining, and defensive cultures. This is where you are just being beat down by leadership. An example, I had a client and they had taken 2 teams from different locations across the US and brought them together on a site at the location. They were building this huge 24-story building, hotel with retail at the bottom. As soon as they got together, the first night at the gathering, the team meeting, we had team A and team B. And for 4 or 5 months, the teams did not get along. Leadership was biased towards their team that they had worked with more often. And so the other ones were the outsiders. And it caused a lot of problems, a lot of animosity. To one day, the people from out of town told us, the consultants, we were trying to build that bridge, that this was the worst toxic environment they'd ever worked in. And they were going back home at the end of the day on a Friday. And we said, whoa, 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 wait. We went and talked to the leader. We asked the people to stay one more week. We brought in an outside organization to come in and assess the toxicity of that organization. That's how bad it was. And when this outside company came in there, they had been doing this for like 40 years. And they said this was the second worst toxic organization they'd ever worked with in 40 years doing this evaluation and assessment. But that was good, because then the leaders were able to look in the mirror and say, wow, this is a $300 million building that we're building. If these people leave, we're going to be over budget. We're going to lose investors. We're going to lose the project, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they quickly started redesigning their culture, coming together, doing a lot of teaming activities and a lot of assessments and 360 feedbacks to get rid of this unadaptive and defensive culture where they were butting heads. And you can read the slide here. You know, if you're maintaining status quo and you're blaming and focusing and not communicating, that just leads to problems. And leadership, you're the one driving that. Now, over here on the right, this is what you want. If you talk to people on a Monday morning at Starbucks or whatever, and they're happy, ask them where they work. Probably work at Starbucks or some other, good companies. You go out and Google, where employees like to work. Work-life balance, respected, paid well, engaged, valued. And that's what's called an adaptive and engaging constructive culture. You foster innovation. You reinforce personal responsibilities. And failure is not fatal. Failure is a learning experience. I was recently on a project. Well, they were telling me about the workforce was creating a lot of problems. And I said, if you let this workforce be autonomous and work this out together as a team, I bet you'll see tenfold of what you're even thinking of doing. You can't automate a bad system. Let the workforce become autonomous. And they looked at me and said, in this industry, that will never work. That is not how we operate. Well, someone in that industry is going to do that. They thought I was nuts. And it's been like 2 months, and the door is slowly opening. We're getting that little pilot experiment going. And the leadership is going, what in the world? Why didn't we do this a long time ago? So organizations who do that, think out of the box, change the paradigm, engage your people. Actually, leaders, it's easier for you. Instead of keeping your finger on the pulse and your thumb on everybody's head, let them be creative and adaptive. Work-life balance, they can figure it out. They're all adults. They've been there before. You will see tenfold capacity increase, customer requirements met, customer satisfaction, employee retention. Bring them in and have them help you design what they need. And you'll be amazed. And I have one more story before I move on here. I do a lot of consulting work, so I'm always working with different organizations. I've worked with, oil companies, hospitals, casinos, finance, banks, construction, food, supply chain, global supply chain. And they all have different cultures and different things that it's just amazing. And across the ocean, the culture over there is engaging in like the Far East. And in some organizations, very hierarchy. And I always learn some nuggets of knowledge when I'm out there observing, doing my Gimba walks and things of that nature. So what you want to do is be adaptive. Talk to your people, engage them, re-engineer those systems and processes, and bring them in and their ideas and their innovative ideas. And you'll see tenfold and improvements. So one of the benefits here of being an adaptive, engaging, and constructive organization, you're going to pursue standards of excellence much better than you had ever thought. You're going to be externally focused. You're going to beat the competition and not each other. Those of us who have siblings, you guys can beat the crap out of each other at home, but you're a solid front out in the world. Be like that. Beat the competitors, not each other. Engage each other. And have a balance and concern for your customers and your stockholders. Be a stockholder. Those of you who work in big organizations, own part of the piece of the pie. Um, and that's going to help drive success and drive that cohesiveness within there. Own what you're doing. If you work at a company and they give you stock options and you don't want them, something might be wrong there, leaders. Even if you're giving it away, there's toxicity there. Be open and candid about discussions and decision makings. Engage your folks. The highest ranking person in the room does not always have the right answers. Surround yourself with good people and let them come up with the best answer for the organization. That's what leadership is all about. Letting go of the reins sometime and bringing in a good mix and balance of folks and individuals with different knowledge and skills. That's what's going to help you grow and be a well-balanced operation. And make sure there's no, BPC, no political stuff at work. Let's get that out of there. The bias and all that other kind of mess. That's not what it's about. And with leadership, make sure you facilitate goals and accomplishments and celebrate those. Celebrate them all over the place. Even the most inhibited person, they do something right. Get them out of their shell by celebrating their successes. Upskill, balance, educate, and embrace. And you'll have people who will stay there for a long time. And just ask them what they would like. You're not going to do everything, all at once. But those small little things, you'll be amazed at how that helps you leaders drive a culture of cohesion and success, which all does nothing but drive the business in the right direction. In order to do this, there's lots of training out there. There's all kinds of things. You can contact us. We have all kinds of stuff too. But you really need to understand, what are you trying to do as a leader? Where do you want to be? Where's that ideal final result? And if you're trying to transform your organization into being lean and Six Sigma, if you're trying to just do something else, just a project execution, what is it going to take to get there? Map out that system. Where are things happening? Where are things falling? We're lean and Six Sigma, and it's all part of it, that organizational transformation. And if you don't have leadership bought in from the top, pockets aren't going to work. The bigger the organization, the more it's going to take to turn that big ship around. But it will happen. Small things at a time. So you can see our slide here. Those of you can see it. I'm not going to read all these things, but you need to train your folks. And there's different types of leadership tactics. So don't just do one. Myers-Briggs, that's one. Enneagram's another. The list goes on and on. You might have to do a couple. Go out online, see what works for what you do in your industry. And then think out of the box and look at a completely different industry. And what did they do? And how were they successful? What happened? What was the ROI? And in lean terms, train your people to be leaders, to be champions of change, to help facilitate change. You're not going to be a psychologist or, a shoulder to cry on, but you are going to be someone who can listen and give feedback, constructive feedback, not destructive feedback. And that's internally and within the teams. The 4 phases of forming, norming, storming, performing, all those kind of things. Get your teams to get through there. That's a whole nother topic. And if you're doing a lean engagement, you're going to be driving projects. You're going to be supporting, knocking out roadblocks. But the same thing in any organization. That's what you should be doing. Knocking out roadblocks, letting your team be successful, setting them up for success. And that's going to build that culture. And also, if you're looking to be, lean, train your people in the methodology, black belts, green belts, yellow belts, and just have everybody even understand what lean is. White belt, just what is this stuff? We're talking about process and systems and people and customers and work-life balance and revenue generation. Those are all the good things that lead out of this. And leaders in your organization, same kind of things. When you are leading and driving a positive culture, a culture of change management, and change management can be anything, just by changing one policy to integrating a whole system that no one wanted and no one knows why you did it, to everything in between. So what's in it for your organization is you're going to see, 20 to 50% over time, better operations throughout the entity. And even your suppliers will come on board. So whatever that product or service you're doing, train your people and you're going to see huge leaps. Eliminate your defects. You guys know what lean does. It optimizes systems. Meet your customer demands. Meet your workforce demands. You're going to retain them, upskill them, give them more to do. and also pay them more while they're doing more. I worked at some organizations that this was a thorn in my side. Let me put you in this position, have you do all this stuff and see if you can do it before we give you that title and pay you. No, if you want me to do something more at a different level, pay me up front, pay me now. I hated that with one organization I worked with for a while, many years ago, and they tried to do that to me, and that's when I left. I said, no, I'm not going to do that for 6 months or a year for you to assess me. So make sure, think about your organization's needs also. So remember, you leaders, current and future, and everywhere in between, where are you at? What's the culture like? With COVID it hit and everything's changed in the workforce. We don't want to drive 5 days a week, 30 miles each way into an office. We can do a lot of this from home. Leaders, hear that, listen, because those are the people who are going to get jobs that do that make their lives better and balanced. It's a changed environment, and we have to change with it. When I first started working, it was, hierarchy, do what they say. The buzzer rings, that's when you get lunch. The buzzer rings, that's when you go to the bathroom. That was messed up. People are adults, engage them, and you'll be happier. So that's all I have to say today. Think about that. There's lots of things out there you can Google. You can get a hold of us. And make sure you follow us on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. And also contact us if you need any help. We do all kinds of lean operations management. If we don't do it, I'll send you in the right direction with quality folks that will. Thank you for listening. My name's Jeff Gray. This is the Lean Lounge, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
For more information on today's show or to become a sponsor, visit leanrevisions.com. Join the virtual studio audience by emailing podcast@leanrevisions.com for tickets. Follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. This podcast is hosted by Jeff Gray, produced and edited by Make Your Day Richer.